Welcome to the Fogies Hub, where we deep dive into all things Fogo chain. Join us as we unpack the latest in the Fogo ecosystem, chat with founders, and learn from the fast-moving blockchain world.
Last time I said I was gonna buy a patron NFT, and then I was also gonna buy a Pudgy Penguin, and just never got to it. It's like, it's a whole experience, like, trying to figure that out, and, like, just been busy. I have to apologize to Kane because I told him I was gonna buy one, so I need to get somebody else to do it for me, and it's kinda this a similar thing with, like, my diamond hands on not selling, like, it's not because like, I have true conviction, it's just, like, I never get around to it. And then, I don't know, the token goes up and it turns out okay for me. That's my trading strategy. Don't have enough time to sell anything, and you become a long-term holder, and in crypto, it's generally been working out. So, I still owe Kane a Patron NFT buy.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, a patron NFT it's definitely worth having for sure, but there's a small learning curve initially, and as a busy person, that's like just what it is.
We should get Kane on at some point because he's a partner, and the Infinix wallet's gonna be hopefully there day one. So yeah, I can ask him these questions, so we'll get him on at some point.
I have
Cool.
I can send you a video on how to do it. It's easy,
There
and
we
then
go. Post it. I
cool.
love your tutorials. By the way, so it sounds like you're moving towards more trading tutorials. So tell me your thinking on that.
So essentially, the content that does the best
Yeah.
on TikTok and YouTube and other platforms talks about meme coins. Now, meme coins are mostly just rugs, 99.9% of the time. The other
Yeah.
content that does really, really good is trading content. And
Yeah.
trading content, I'm good at making tutorials and I'm okay at
Okay.
a trader and I'm getting better at a trader and I have a trading team. So I want to make this basically my prime purpose. One, of course, it aligns with Fogo Chain, but it
Yeah.
also aligns from just so many viewpoints, as in you can go and buy Sol or Bitcoin or ETH and just hold it and just be a diamond hand person, or you can
Yeah.
just learn some indicators. And as long as you are mostly right, you can be profitable and you can sell when RSI is extremely high and overbought and it's max greed. And then you can buy
Yeah.
again when it's max fair, as long as you can teach yourself that and learn enough. So ideally, I would like a whole step-by-step course of videos that someone can start and come through so that they can learn this platform and not on day one jump onto ambient finance, put on some perps, lose all their
Yeah.
money, have no stop losses, and then just get destroyed.
Yeah. Look, I think this is super important. Like we need more of this because I view it kind of like surfing. Like when you're learning to surf, like you sit down on the beach, you like, somebody teaches you like, okay, like this is the wave, this is where you want to paddle out, this is where you don't want to paddle out, like this is where you don't want to get stuck. This is how it's breaking, like, and so you kind of from the outside looking in before you like put yourself in the situation, you're like learning like the dynamics and like kind of a strategy. And I think, like, too many people just jump into trading and like, "Hey, I see this thing, I wanna buy it," and they've never, like, done that foundational, like, work or training. Um, and it's crazy because like, trading is the biggest use case in crypto, and the friction for somebody to go on and trade and, make real wealth is very low compared to every other asset class and every TradFi kinda, venue, let's say. And so and there's not enough people out there that I see, like, really kinda sitting on the beach with these new traders and saying like, "Okay, like, here's how you wanna approach trading and risk." And, like, for example and I'm not that teacher, but I know, like, the process to really kinda, you know, make sure that you're entering this, like, Shark Tank, with the strategy and discipline. And so, like, one example is like, okay, like, realistically, how much time can you dedicate to trading each day? Like, if you have a full-time job, then you're not gonna be, like, day trading, or unless you wanna, like, lose your job, right? So it's like
Right.
you start with that. Like, okay, how much time can you dedicate? Like, are you gonna be a full-time trader? Okay, well, then we're in a different frequency of trading. Um, like, can you not dedicate that much time? Well, then, like, you're swing trading or maybe you're buying and holding. And and then it's like, okay, and you can have multiple strategies. Like you can have like a portfolio that is longer term and a portfolio that's shorter term, but you have to be like really disciplined in the strategy of both and like separating it. And that's kind of hard for people to do because it takes like two mindsets. Um, and so the next thing is like, okay, how much money are you willing to lose and not like ruin, like not have enough money to like eat or pay the rent? Like, let's start there. And at what point are you gonna say like, hey, this isn't working? And like really cut things off before you do like real damage to your wealth. Like all of these questions, like you need to decide. And it's good if you have somebody else that's like holding you accountable for these disciplined kind of rules that you set for yourself. Um, so like that, I mean, and you think about it, like these are things at, at some level that like hedge funds are doing. Like they're thinking about like what's my risk tolerance? Like how much do I want to invest in like riskier assets versus less risky? How often am I going to trade? Like what's my time frame? What's my stop loss and profit target? And the other thing I'd say is like if you're going to be at the higher frequency, you're competing with like HFTs, and like that's tough. Like that's nearly impossible. Like HFTs have enough like problem like being profitable with all the advantages that they have. And
What would you
and
deem a high frequency?
like, running a bot that's
Okay,
going in and out of trades in minutes,
right.
um, or even hours, I'd say. But that's for like a retail investor. Like hours and like the high frequency world they'd call medium frequency. But and like the only way to do that is with bots, right? Like or algos. Like you're not going to be clicking and competing with like Jane Street. So so yeah, I think the point is like we need more voices that are like talking about like the discipline and risk management of trading. And because like when you hear some guy in CNBC like go on and say, hey, I think Bitcoin's going to a million up per coin, like that's not helpful to traders. Like maybe it is for long-term holders, but like what can I do with that information?
Brian Armstrong said by 2030.
Yeah. But like the useful stuff is like, okay, how do we when we how do we think about good entries? How do we think about being disciplined on stop losses? Um, how do you evaluate your history and how disciplined you've been and how successful you've been and like what's been successful and what hasn't? And we just don't have enough of that. So like one of my personal goals is to promote anybody that's teaching trading. So if that's going to be a focus of yours, like you have my support. Because like the other part of this is like, all right, let's have a historical look at like who made money on these meme coin launches and what did they do. Um, and like let's be like should you stay away from them completely because it's impossible, or are there some people that were able, because now we have perps, right? So you can exercise views on both sides of the market. And so like are the only people that made money the ones that shorted it and stayed out of the initial pump? Okay, that tells us something. Like there's a strategy. Like in that how exactly how did they know how did they predict with some certainty this was the time to short? Like what were the signals? Like that kind of stuff. Like if we can promote that kind of disciplined trading and like fact-based research that leads to better trading, like I think the industry will be better and people stop blaming like the blockchains for these losses. Maybe,
Yeah.
because really it's probably more of an education thing. And then there's also an element of disorganized markets. So like if the market just is completely disorganized, and we saw this with crypto tokens, like what we're seeing with meme coins, where they're like running up on these sugar highs, falling off a cliff, on like low volume, let's say, even high volume. This was happening with like crypto tokens like in 2016. And like centralized exchanges and market makers just like fixed it. They have more control, so it's easier. But they fixed it with like better launches, like kind of price discovery on like the pre-open, better liquidity when the thing launched, and that allowed people to like get in at reasonable levels, similar to like IPOs. And on the stock market and not get like, essentially rugged when the kind of bottom fell out of the chart. And so like that's another element. Like and we can do a better job at that um with price discovery and there's like the same things that we did to fix it for regular tokens, we can fix it on meme launch pads as well. So that's another thing I'm supporting. Like trying to, and there's a lot of people, like a lot of good people working on this. So I'm optimistic because like people blame the meme coin for the losses when it's really the disorganized market and undisciplined trading probably. So those two things would just make the ecosystem a lot healthier if we fix.
Yeah, right now this is how a meme coin is launched. Primarily it's going to be on Solana,
Yep.
40,000 tokens a day. There will be a bundled, there'll be a launch, probably an inside group. There'll be a bunch of bundlers, up to maybe 300 or so wallets. They
Yeah.
will use bots to buy up the price to bring in retail, and then they'll start to exit. And sometimes they can just exit with a single click that will just sell everything and just drain the liquidity. And they'll have
Wow.
some sort of algorithm or whatnot. Or there's things that are done similar, but they're a little bit more organic, but they tend to be just on a token or an idea that Elon Musk puts out, or something unfortunate happening in the world, or like the Nepal protests, something like that.
Yep.
So they don't really have like any value accrual to
Yeah.
them, and they are typically very, very short-lived.
Yeah. The way Hyperliquid launches tokens is like they limit the amount of tokens that can be launched. There's like an auction, there's a time frame. And so it also kind of focuses people on like a worthy token to pay attention to. Um, because, look, like meme coins can start as memes and turn into, like have utility and have underlying value. I mean, look at Dogecoin. Like it's hanging around at a really high valuation. It's a meme coin. People are starting to like incorporate it into payments. And so, um, yeah, just because something started as a meme coin doesn't mean it can't become valuable and have fundamental utility. Um, And it'd be cool if that happens because, like, that'd be great for us. Like, that's something that is unique to crypto. Like, Nasdaq isn't in a position to, like, launch meme coins. So, it's in our best interest to figure out, like, how these coins can actually bring utility and, like, hold their value. Because we've got, like, a big advantage on that. Like, we have a head start on that. And and if anybody can launch a meme coin and it can go through this evolution and become, legitimate asset. Like that's empowering for a lot of people, and that's why I'm here. So yeah, so I'm hesitant to just kind of dismiss meme coins, even though it's not really our focus. Look, I'm excited by lots of things that like blockchains can do to like empower people, like just payments. Like it's so annoying to like go to a bank, and it's so much easier to send a stable coin.
Yeah.
And like so, I would love to like have the experience to like work on that and fix that. But it's just not where I come from. Like I come from a trading background. And um like so you kind of, focus on like what you know first. And that's why Fogo is really focused on supporting like a perps dex that we think is going to get a lot of traction and build like a good foundation for the entire L1, right? It's open, like anybody can build anything on it. And so, but ultimately, like what I want to see Fogo evolve into is like people building, like cool payment solutions that like can be used by people who don't have access to capital markets in emerging markets. But if I started with that, like I'd get no traction because I just don't. We're not like payments experts, my whole team, and um, so that's why I focus so much on trading. But it's not to dismiss all the other cool stuff that I think like blockchains do, and can become. Um, so yeah, it's just kind of the initial focus. And I'll give it one example. Um, like Hyperliquid started with a perps dex. That's it, and they made a killer perps dex, and they're now in a position where I think PayPal and Venmo. I don't even know the relationship between PayPal and Venmo. The reason I bring it up, PayPal like posted a comment, you know, another one of these companies writing a love letter in public to Hyperliquid to get the USDH ticker. And they're promising like that all like this stablecoin will be and Hyperliquid will be like distributed through Venmo, right? And so like that's kind of my goal. Like they started with a perp dex, they're trading experts, they're not payments experts, but they created such an attractive environment for like stablecoins that now stablecoins like are saying, hey, you know, we want to like promote Hyperliquid as like a payment solution in the stablecoin. And that's how I kind of see Fogo evolving. Like if we can start with this really good trading experience, and we think it's going to be better than Hyperliquid, and it's going to be faster. Then we build from there. And the other difference is like, and I'm also not an expert on like Hyper Core versus Hyper EVM, but I just know that it's pretty segregated. So the other difference is everybody will be treated like a first class citizen on Fogo. So it's not like, all right, the perp dex has access to, you know, this level of performance, but like every other app in Dex like doesn't. And actually, I think the only thing is it'll be coloed. So really, like the only advantage that the Dex and the Oracle will have is their coload. And anybody like it's public, it's going to be public where our consensus and validators are. So anybody can colo next to to the consensus and have the same advantage. But the other thing it gives is composability. So like you know, you can compose on top of all of these colo services and the amount of cool solutions you can build across all of the apps, aggregating liquidity is going to be very cool.
On the subject of Hyperliquid and their USDH proposals, this has been crazy because Tether has basically been making billions of dollars a year. Circle was making hundreds of millions, I think, a year. And then they IPO'd at a crazy valuation. And now people have just realized, wait, all these blockchains that have this ability to produce all this value, all the value is going back to Tether or Circle. And now suddenly people are realizing this isn't fair.
Yeah, without like getting into too much detail on Hyperliquid, I always looked at these stable coins and the amount of money they're making and thought that it was one of the most extractive experiences for users on chain that was like not being talked about. You know, everyone like is focused on so many other extractive experiences. Like, well, look around, look at like these are some of the biggest companies in the world because they're taking yield and it's not giving back to users or to value to the chain. Like, and like I think we were a little in front of this. But I'll be honest that one of the reasons we were in front of it is like just because like when I went out to the stablecoins, I just didn't get a lot of love from the extractive guys. And like I just kind of was like, all right, well, let's find another solution. And we started looking around and we'll announce that. But I think like the conclusion we came to months ago was essentially what I think the Hyperliquid community is coming to the same conclusion that um, there's an opportunity to, you know, have kind of a, let's say, a star stablecoin that is connected to the brand and the value accrues back to the things that, you know, are important to that ecosystem. Let's word it like that. Um, and so, and this is interesting because I think it kind of fast forwarded what I think was naturally going to happen to the stablecoin model. You know, like it might have played out over like the next year or two, and it ended up because of this contest and the transparency and people like really like looking at these things apples to apples and like who can come up with the best, most aggressive proposal. Now people are like, oh wow, like this is like this is the end game for stablecoins, and it's tough because you've got like lowering interest rates, so that's going to cut into their profits, and now more demands from the community and the ecosystems that the yields accrue value back in some way. and that's going to make that like traditional stablecoin business model um, much more difficult. But that's innovation, and that's the better model. And like we're going to be supporting that. And then the other thing is like to have just one stablecoin that's like the star is going to make the UX a lot easier. Like if you're going from app to app and it's just one, you just have to think about one, FUSD, let's say. That's much better. But and the other part is like we're waiting for regulations. So once we get clarity on like what you can actually do, um, that will be, that will inform, I think, a lot of these decisions. But the other thing I'll say is like, everyone's like, this was an awesome marketing ploy by Hyperliquid. Like nothing I've seen from Jeff and Hyperliquid has shown me that they want this kind of attention. I think like they saw this opportunity, they were like, hey, we should probably have a vote in a contest. And like they thought it was going to be like pretty low key, and it just blew up like way bigger than anybody expected. So no, they're not looking. They don't like this kind of attention. But in a way, I think it's good. Like I love building and evaluating in public because everybody learns. Like if this happened behind the scenes, then like no one would learn, no one would discuss it. And so this transparent process, I think, makes us all stronger.
Yeah, and there's a couple things that were interesting. One is the amount of hype that's been moved between validators, depending on what the validator stance was, like where they wanted to go, Paxos or whatever. Also,
Yeah.
I saw you going back and forward with Mert, or rather, I saw Mert. He posted a thesis like Hyperliquid is doing this. We should do something for Solana like this. And he was immediately shut down from like key people in the industry or linked to Solana that you should stop talking about this. And it kind of just fizzled out. And then you got involved. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I don't even remember getting involved on that one, but he is spot on this. He usually is, except for Fogo, but we're changing his mind on that. Um, and yeah, he sees what I saw, which is like this yield that is being supported by the Solana ecosystem is ultimately leaving the ecosystem and funding competitor. That's like just is bad business. And so to point that out, and like I think he was kind of like, hey, I don't know like necessarily what to do with it, but I just know the current situation isn't really working. And that's right. So I'm not sure who was against it and what their arguments were. But he's like spot on. And it's also, look, it's one advantage you have by starting a new L1 with all these new facts, because you can think about like what's working, what's not working with others, and like fix that stuff and like take a different swing. And so we're looking around at that situation and at like Hyperliquid and saying like let's do this the smartest way we can given the current state of like this stablecoin market. So yeah, it's everybody's learning here, and I think we're going to be better off in terms of just smarter solutions that keep the value in terms of the chain and the users.
Yeah, there's billions of dollars on these blockchains. They're earning 3% or so. There's billions of dollars in stablecoins. They're earning like 3%, maybe more, maybe less sometimes. And then it all just goes to the protocol, like Circle or Tether.
Yeah, or if they have a profit share, it goes back to Coinbase, 50%. So,
And
uh,
then that goes to base.
yeah, yeah. I mean, follow the money. I don't know. Wherever it's going, it's not benefiting, the people that it should benefit, and the ecosystem it should benefit.
Very true. I see you repost a lot of Clemente stuff. He is the dancing crypto genius that gets a whole lot of engagement. Why is that?
Yeah, yeah. I guess I he got my attention during the pump listing, um, where I guess he lost some money. Or I don't know if it was real, but it seemed real. And I reached out to him, and then we're getting, let's say, closer to the Bodogo team. And I love Nick's content as well. Like they're just putting out like the coolest stuff, and it's it's like relevant stuff. It's not just funny. It's relevant to launches and DATs, and yeah, like just really good content. And the cool thing, because I don't have a lot of experience with these content teams, so the cool thing I'm seeing is like, you see these guys like dancing around and posting like silly content, but in the background, like they're running like a serious business. and they take it serious, and they like push, like when they see an opportunity to like partner with somebody, like they push and they really like, um, like you really feel like they're trying to understand your vision. And so it's just this is one of the first teams I've been working with, and yeah, I'm looking forward to like working with them. But you should follow them for sure, Clemente and Nick O'Neill.
Easy Eats Bodega. There's like
Oh yeah,
4 of them. Yeah.
yeah,
Clemente
yeah.
is kind of
PO, yep.
they're
Um,
funny. They're properly funny.
yeah, and my daughter is a huge fan of Nick, and like she makes her own videos, like crying with the dollar bills and stuff. Um, so yeah, I live with like a mini Nick impersonator.
Yeah, he's good. He's clever. I do like to use Clemente's dancing videos as a bit of a potential. Just check the charts. Normally a little bit of a local top
Yeah,
signal.
yeah. I wonder if he was the DJ back in the day. I'll have to ask him. He's got that DJ vibe.
Don't know. He lives in Miami. He's got this apartment, and in the middle of the apartment is this massive like pillar, like a meter big, just a just a
Yeah,
massive pillar.
yeah.
It's his stationary girlfriend, I think he calls it.
Okay. Yeah, they look like they're having fun in Miami for sure.
Cool. Well, I'm excited to see what comes out from Korea.
But one thing is like we haven't really been in Asia much, and like that's huge for traders. And so Korea is going to be kind of I think our coming out party, and then Token 2049. So and it'll be right around like the right time, getting ready for launch. So yeah, I think in the next couple of weeks that's going to be a big focus. But it's cool to see like Ukraine has a really strong community, and they had a meetup in Vietnam, and like it's just cool to see all of these things popping up, and it's one of the reasons I try to over tweet, because like I know there's lots of people that are supporters of us, but like they don't have a lot of places to like understand what's going on real time, how we're thinking. And like I want people to know like where we stand on different things like that are coming up. And I also feel like sometimes being divisive is a good thing. Like I also want to, like we have a different view of a lot of the legacy kind of ecosystems and blockchains. And I want to make sure that like people know that like it's a different view. And like if you don't think like this, like we think global consensus doesn't work for trading. Actually, Jeff also thought that, and he put all his validators in one colo. Like, and we see how that's played out. And so I want to be very clear. Like, if you think that global consensus is really important, and no colo and colo is not fair, then like Fogo is not for you. Like, let's just be honest. Um, but if you're a trader that's struggling with the latency that comes from global consensus, and you're looking at Hyperliquid and you're like, wow, like these guys shunned global consensus, they have local consensus. The trading experience is awesome. They're at 70 millisecond block times. PayPal's all over them. Like they did something right, and maybe it starts there. Then Fogo's for you because we're starting at the same place. And like the only way to kind of get that message out is kind of be divisive on like why we think this model is broken for trading and this is the new model. And that's kind of how I think about posting.
Good. Otherwise, we just may as well just use all centralized exchanges, and then an FTX situation comes along in the future, and we just push back crypto by like 10 years again. Unfortunately,
That's a good point. People talk about decentralization and censorship resistance, but like the first question is, could this protocol like pull off a fraud like that? Um, and like I don't think like once again, like I know Hyperliquid is closed source, but they have validators, so like I don't want to speak for them. I don't know, could they like pull off this fraud where they control the records and like make fake records, so and like given that no people aren't withdrawing all their money every day, have kind of a Ponzi scheme? I don't think so, given the validators and Explorer and everything. But I don't know. I'll leave that to somebody else. Like that's a good research report for somebody to do. Like, could this fraud take place? Like that's the first thing. Like, because we don't want that. Like we want to have a better model than centralized exchanges. So if this solution, this blockchain, this DEX prevents that by being open source and public and having independent validators, then that's an upgrade already. Like you don't need to have home stakers to achieve that either. Sorry, home validators. So yeah, like that's like the first test, and then there's more. Then there's like censorship resistance. Could one jurisdiction come in and shut this down? Is it under common control? And hopefully, like the regulations will pass that will make it very clear, like what are the rules to be compliant. And we're starting to get that. Like common control is one of those. And we have a new GC that we're announcing. And my recommendation for anybody that's kind of playing in our waters and with these new regulations is like have a really good GC that's able to interpret even the draft language and give good advice. It's so important. Like invest in legal advice, and like yeah. So that's and it helps to have a friendlier environment, but that also can change. So you want to be careful, and so that's like legal risk and compliance is definitely something we're taking seriously.
So I've seen you rooting on the timeline for competitors when they've been reaching all-time highs. Why is this?
Yeah. So I think like a lot of people think you want to root for the downfall of your competitors, but I think in a bridge multi-chain world, I think it's the opposite, because if I think about like who's gonna become aware of Fogo and like go through the friction, study Fogo and potentially invest, and it's not going to be the person that like never on ramp to crypto. I mean, that's a lot of friction. Maybe it will be some percentage, but like the least amount of friction and the kind of lowest leap of faith is like somebody in a legacy like that's already on ramped. Maybe they've made a lot of money with a peer. Let's call them peers. I don't like to call them competitors. And they've got a lot of capital locked up. Maybe they have some unrealized profits, and they see somebody like Fogo like solving problems that they see as well on their legacy platform. And if there's a wormhole bridge where they can click like one button and swap some of those profits and capital over to maybe the next big thing that solves the problems that they are aware of, like that's a much lower leap of faith for an investor. And so like the more capital that's like in the on-ramped in the system, like bridge to us, closer to us, the more we will likely benefit, because all you need is a percent of those investors and a percent of their capital to say, hey, this could be, this might take off. And like you might have people that like believe in us and they put a big chunk in. You might have people that see it as a hedge, like, hey, like any of this stuff. I mean, we almost had like an infinite mint bug on a very mature L1. And like, what happens if that went down? Like, yeah, there's waves, there's forks, whatever, but that's a problem, and that would be a big value destruction. And so, do you want to have a hedge on? Especially if you like maybe you're operating and maybe your company is completely tied to this one L1, and like something can go wrong. And so you might see people like invest in Fogo as a hedge as well. And then you have like haters that, and I've seen like this strategy before. They're like, look, if you see, this is smart too. Like if you see somebody that you like really don't believe in and hate, but hey, there is a percent chance that what they're saying like comes to fruition. Like it's better to be wrong and like make a ton of money on it than to be wrong and like poor. So hey, I'm just gonna take some money and like invest in them. And like if they do what I think is the impossible, like I just made a lot of money from it. And it's like a hate investment. So so that in that sense, like, hey, the more capital that's kind of in our neighborhood is better. The other thing is I do think there's a network effect in VMs, just from like compatibility. Like if you have an ERC20 token the fact that you can like move it around like so much easier within those chains makes a difference. And like then it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy, and so more builders like come there because they know that they're gonna like once again they're gonna have neighbors where there's a lot of capital that they can target. And I think that like SVM hasn't done as good of a job because we've been like so Solana focused, and there hasn't been this concept that there can be other chains that make other trade-offs that bring in new adoption and new capital. Like the L2 model inherently kind of says that. It says like, okay, the Ethereum wasn't built for like high speed, low latency trading execution. So how do we support that and ensure that that stays in the ecosystem? Let's have this L2 model where somebody like a Mega ETH can like target that in a real way. And so they support that. And the weird thing about SVM is like they don't, because like Solana wasn't built really if for real traders that understand the stuff and know that trading happens at like microsecond levels. Solana wasn't purpose built for trading. It was a general purpose chain built for with global consensus and like fairness from all participants in mind, and slowed down by the speed of light around the world. And that just doesn't work for trading. Like Hyperliquid has proven that. And so the difference in SVM is like people don't admit that. Like it's one thing to say like, hey, like we could like maybe these other guys in SVM are going to be able to make, and that can be an extension as well. Like Bullet is somebody, Tristan from Bullet is somebody I really respect. Like he tried to make perps decks work on Solana. Not to speak for him, I'm just going from public information. But it seems like he tried to make perps decks work on Solana and it didn't work. And now he's building an extension where he's getting down to like 5 milliseconds latency, and I'm sure it's going to be a great experience. So like he tried, didn't work, and he's now building off Solana. And like it's unclear whether that is kind of a blessed solution, because I know generally the thinking is like either it's on mainnet or like it's not really part of the strategy. So so yeah, I think SVM misses out, and I'm trying to convince a lot of people that like, hey, if we try to dig our heels in that Solana is the end all be all for the trading use case and ignore like, the hyperliquids of the world and even Mega ETH and Robinhood chain now, and ignore that like there's purpose built solutions that are just going to continue to eat our lunch in market share. Like that's bad for everybody in SVM. And it'd be great if there was like an L2 model in Solana or some other way that they could get comfortable with aligning like alternative purpose built plays like us, but there just isn't. So you're just kind of relegated to just being a competitor. And that's kind of, the situation we're in. But I always hold out hope that, they'll look around and look at what Hyperliquid's doing and say like, yeah, there's a correlation between very different trade-offs from the co-location and validation level with trading experience and with an economic flywheel that allows Hyperliquid to do what it did. And we need to think differently. In the meantime, Fogo, I think will prove that. You just got to be honest about your limitations, and when competitors are taking advantage of your limitations and getting traction. Like if you don't start there, you'll never partner or think about aligning with others. And so it starts with like just being honest. It's like when you're an alcoholic, like you got to be honest with like the damage you're doing to others and confront that before you'll ever have a chance of like making a different decision and pivoting to not drinking. Um, and so it starts there. And if you don't see the way things are playing out and like Hyperliquid, like what more evidence do you need that like there's a different model to build these L1s for trading that enable a whole different experience. So yeah, kind of starts there. And then the other thing I see it is kind of like similar to like the M&A world. So, when companies get to a certain level and they get big enough, and then, the market dynamics change, usually they're so big that it's like very hard to steer the ship and take advantage of these new dynamics. And so the M&A model suggests that like when a challenger who is more nimble like starts taking advantage, like you acquire them. And then you like align them and build them in and like take the best of what they have and the best of what you have, and kind of 1 + 1 = 10. And so, and I think we're seeing kind of the same thing play out here. And so, but like you need that mindset of like, yeah, we're just not in a position, especially like a mature decentralized blockchain is just not in a position to like move fast. Like when they tried to like fix inflation, it was like, and it's such a simple thing, like changing the curve. And like look what happened. It was like distracted people for months for no result. It's like if you were a public company and went through that process with no result, like that would be a big problem with your that board meeting would be very tough. Because like the board expects you to adapt and fix problems, right? And so it's just as unacceptable for a blockchain. And so you have to think about, okay, given that we're a mature decentralized blockchain and just like kind of not built to iterate fast, like how do we get in front of these new market dynamics like and learn from, like these new challengers or acquire them or align them, like what's the strategy? And if you just have your head in the sand because you're not willing to admit somebody can move faster and do something better, like I think that's a bad model, and I think it hurts, like it's going to hurt all of SVM. So that's why I'm out there like pointing these things out, not to like rub it in. It's to like wake people up and be like, hey, SVM is way stronger together if we all like are honest about the inherent limitations that came from the trade-offs when we built these things and the new dynamics like that we're learning about. Like we're in a more clear compliance and legal environment, regulatory environment. And so, that means that like new chains can like optimize to be compliant, but not have to over compensate for what they're guessing is compliant. And that can mean a lot in terms of like being smarter in the design. And so there's lots of new things. And as a mature decentralized chain, like you can't necessarily take advantage of it all. And you maybe didn't make the right decisions for the current market like 7 years ago. Sorry. Like, no, like the way I would have built Fogo 7 years ago is very different than today. So I still hold out hope that like this wakes some people up and they view us as a contributor, a positive contributor to Solana and SVM, than like a competitor. Because competitor is only like in your own mind. I'm happy to be a peer. I'm happy to be positive contributor. There's lots of things that Fogo will never do that Solana will do. We'll never have a cell phone. Like there's lots of use cases that just are so much better on Solana. Not trading. It won't be trading and DeFi. But yeah, so that's how I think about the SVM ecosystem.
And what do you think happens to Solana if once Fogo's up and running, successful, and Hyperliquid's also even more successful, and Solana isn't, and Alpenglow is still not going to be fast enough, and it's going to be 18 months away and may not even work initially? What do you think happens to Solana if they don't start to form these?
No, I don't like, and that's the thing. Like, let me be clear. I can say these things about like specific how well Solana is suited for the trading use case, but also think like Solana is doing a lot of awesome things, can still grow and still be huge and reach all-time highs. And I want that to happen because it's just going to benefit everybody in SVM. And so what I think will happen is what's already happening is they're still going to grow in lots of different use cases and get really cool builders. But there's going to be others like Hyperliquid and like Fogo that are just going to take the cake when it comes to market share on-chain trading. Whether or not like they've pivot or their engineers figure out something that like puts them on a level playing field, like maybe they do. I haven't like seen anything. Like if they had something, maybe it'd be in testnet. You could go like test it out. But my bet was always like because they are a big decentralized, hard to move kind of thing now, like when the hyperliquids of the world come, like they're not going to be able to react fast. And I was always excited about SVM. I was always excited about Fire Dancer. And I didn't want to lose to a hyperliquid that just was smart enough to put their validators in one data center and reduce latency with the price source. And so, and Solana wasn't super interested in like entertaining my idea to like do the same. And so I just built it on my own. And here we are.
How do you think about the dexes on Fogo building trading activity?
Yeah, so this is like one of the hardest things to do, and it just takes time. Um, and like I've been working on this problem since the 2000s with foreign exchange when we like just started launching electronic trading for foreign exchange. And yeah, it takes time, and it's like for that like order book to get to like an equilibrium that's healthy, it's like constant trial and error with different dynamics. And every like centralized exchange has gone through this. Um, and yeah, I would even say like Hyperliquid, they had a big head start. I think they were operating for like a year before they kind of launched the token and like really got traction. And so it just takes time. But yeah, like don't expect, the activity day one to be huge. This takes time. And there's probably going to be some ebbs and flows of volumes. The key in the initial stages is like the thing works, it stays up. Like the risk management by the dexes is working. And then we have healthy liquidity and healthy spreads and I'll be happy when we get to that point. And then, my thing is like I love doing deals. And I think the other way to bring in liquidity and real traders is like integrations. You could say that like the biggest integration I think we saw is the Phantom and Hyperliquid integration. And like that for me is huge. Like and it's really cool because Phantom and Hyperliquid like kind of sat down and they said like what is the perps vision like that we want to provide to like Phantom's users. And they built like a super cool experience. Like I go on there, I put a position on, I wake up and see if I got liquidated because it was 20x long, on like a small amount. And it's just such a cool experience. And it's and those Phantom users don't even know they're using Hyperliquid. It's kind of something that Vlad from Robin had said. He said like, he envisions this world to be this multi-chain bridged world where like the primary choice isn't like what chain you're on, but it's kind of like you're just getting this experience and that's all in the background. And that Phantom Hyperliquid integration is kind of proof of that. And it's how I see things. Like, we want to go out and find front ends, web 2 brokers, whatever they are that have captive users that want access to our trading experience and liquidity. And we want to kind of be in the background and allow them to do what they do best in terms of managing those clients and front ends and route to the fastest, best, tightest execution place in the world. And so, and I love doing those deals. So when we get to a point where I feel like, enough people know about Fogo and I got a whole army of people like you guys talking about us, like I'll probably go a little quiet and go into deal mode for those exact type of integrations. And like that's what I love to do best. And I think that's kind of, same thing with Pith. Like that's what they do. I mean, like who else, forget about the use case of an Oracle, just like who else has gotten real companies, that many real companies to come on chain? Like I don't think anybody. Like if you look at the list of market data providers in Pith, and that's because they, like Mike Cahill and his team, they come from the same place we did of like, we know how to talk to those TradFi use, like we worked at these places. We know how to talk to them. We know how to navigate like the things they can and can't do because, they're a little more risk averse. And we know the kind of things that motivate them. And so like Pith proved that like that can be done and we can get, these guys connected, even like in a regulatory environment that wasn't so friendly. And so now that we've got a more friendly environment We've got those guys with a little bit of FOMO because they're seeing their peers come on chain or launch their own chains. Like the environment's ripe for those kind of deals. And we think that we have like the best team to get those over the line.
We've seen some recent outages with Fogo Chain. How do you think about this?
Um, Obviously they're not great, but there's another part of me that says like, hey, the more the merrier in testnet, as long as we're not repeating. So like as long as I don't see an outage happen for the same reason, then we're learning. So like if there's 10 things that can bring down a blockchain, like if you can get through most of them in testnet so that we ensure that it doesn't happen in mainnet, that's a good thing. The other part is we're testing like an alert system. So like, people need to be woken up and like get this back online. And so that exercise is super helpful to do in a lower stakes environment like testnet. So I like to see them. I like to see the alerts go out. I like to see the chain come back sooner rather than later. But I also like to see as we get closer to mainnet, like less and less, right? And so yeah, it's just like part of it. Part of life. Like I've been, you know, and like in one way or another involved in exchanges and systems for a long time. And it's just like outages are a part of life. Centralized exchanges go down. Everything but Ethereum in the blockchain space, I think, has gone down. Um, and so just kind of like part of it. And actually, this is a place I'll give Solana credit for. And like people who are still like referencing Solana's outages, like it's just very intellectually dishonest. Like, man, they haven't gone down, and like they've handled lots of volumes. I mean, sometimes there's issues, but it's usually not like the L1 itself. So for me, like Solana is just as reliable as Ethereum right now. Um, and so yeah, we want to get there. So that's one thing that we aspire to get to that Solana has done a really good job at fixing.
So the L2 debate is hot. How do you think about Fogo and L2s?
Yeah, look, I always respected the L2 strategy on Ethereum because it says like, hey, we can't like Ethereum can't be the end all be all for low latency execution environments, but here's a solution, aligned solution that achieves that and allows builders to build their vision while still being aligned. So I agree with that. We'll see. Like the jury is still out. Like Base is successful. Mega ETH, we'll see. I mean, the fact that Robinhood is now going to be an L2 is big. But the question is like, the thing about Robinhood is like they have no loyalty. They're just like business people. So as they get down the road, if they see that the L2 is like holding them back and they see others like maybe launching their own L1s, they're going to pivot to an L1. Especially if they have regulatory clarity that says like, hey, this is how you can be an L1 and be compliant. And if that happens, I think that's kind of the death of like Solana like gets what they wanted. Like that's kind of the death of L2s. And so like they are the make or break for L2s. Maybe Mega ETH, like if Mega ETH comes out and is a huge success and Base continues to grow, then the L2 model has like a pretty good story. In terms of how I think about it for Fogo, like I guess, like we're open. Anybody can like launch an L2 on Fogo if they wanted to. And it is interesting to me because, we're going to have like 1 second finality. And so that's like pretty attractive. Like if you're settling, even like if it's just an off-chain matching engine that's settling onto Fogo, then you get like pretty instant finality. And then like look, if you're an exchange, that's way better than like if you're a TradFi exchange that's settling to DTCC right now, you're all your trades, you have to wait like a day for the settlement. So we might see kind of TradFi exchanges launching tokenized versions, especially with these tokenized equities coming online on chain. We might see them launching like tokenized versions of their exchange. I think 6 digital exchanges already kind of done this. And in that case, like, are they going to start looking around for fast finality L1s that they can settle to? And so it's something I'd be very open to because like, they don't want to like find validators like and figure out like all of these things that I just spent a year like having conversations with partners, these like building blocks of an L1 and um, like decentralized consensus. And so if they can leverage, and somebody else has already done that work, but still do what they do best on the execution front and, give a better service to their existing clients, their captive clients, then that should be attractive for them. The other thing they could do, they could, start their own L1 as well. But I don't know that everybody has the stomach for that. And so, yeah, I'm very open. Like I'm not gonna be religious about any one thing. Like we are opportunists and business people. Um, and obviously as long as it aligns with our vision, broader vision, and we do have some ideals of like how we think this decentralized space should play out and like empower the kind of unbanked, forgotten individual who doesn't have access to finance now. And so like we're not going to go against that. Um, but yeah, we're open to all kinds of models, and I could see somebody being attracted to Fogo given the finality. So we'll see how it plays out.
Thanks, Sags. Thanks for all the insight. I'm very, very excited for Fogo coming out of testnet and going to mainnet, giving us a whole lot of inspiration and ideas. And I'm excited for the things that you're building. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Keep up all the great video content, and we'll do it again.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Take care.